And hello, today we're going to talk about podcast studios. Now, for the longest time, I thought that a podcast and a podcast studio is just a room where people smoke weed a lot and then record it for some reason and podcast? It's wordplay. But it's actually podcast with a D. Different. Because I was wondering why is, Rode and Mackie all getting into the weed. But they're not. They're getting into podcasts, which is a totally different thing. And it's kind of like a radio show that you download later, whenever you want, I think. I'm too old for the shit. What do I know? The TikTok people. So these podcast studios can also be used for streaming and live streams. So see them as mixers that are very much geared towards using mic inputs and also other sources like a computer and some files and some cool sounds at the same time, like a radio station would, and put these together either on a recording or on a live stream. There are a few out there. Rode has a great one. Mackie, that's the one we're looking at. Boss has the Gigcaster, which I think they don't have anymore. Something happened with them, and maybe they're coming back. Maybe there's a new version coming out. Who knows? But what we're looking at is the Mackie DLZ Creator, which is right here on the table. And I actually have used this very same one for over a year for our podcast that we do in German.
Dann hallo, liebe Internet-Serverinnen und Server und Gemeinde und
Server
so.
oder Surfer?
Surfer.
Beten die auch in Bethlehem?
Hier, der M meint, vielleicht war der gar kein Zimmermann, sondern Förster.
Jesus, der Förster! Und da müssen die Minimum von ihrem Vertrag her in 2 reingreifen und mal kräftig in den Mund schmeißen. Können Sie nicht machen, Herr Schneider, das ist zu gefährlich. Nein, das machen wir nicht.
Könnten wir jetzt mal bitte aufhören, die ganze Zeit so Sachen zu sagen wie Eventide und dann von hinne und hier und da. Ich habe völlig das Kopfkino die ganze Zeit ins Grauen. Weil wir ja sehr kreativ sind alle. Und dann haben wir, es war eine Mischung.
Die armen Fliegen, auf denen wir das austragen. But then I saw a friend of mine and she got the DLZ XS, which is over there. And I said to Sweetwater, hey, now is the time to look at both of them and figure out the differences and make a buyer's guide for you. And then I also proposed to Sweetwater that they pay me for that, which is what they're doing. We're going to look long and hard at the DLZ Creator because it's literally the same thing as the XS, only the XS has fewer inputs and the display is smaller. And instead of faders, you got knobs and less of them. So that's pretty much the only differences. There are the tiniest differences in the interface, but I don't think it can do less other than number of inputs. But we're going to put it on the table and look at it at the end of this video just to put your mind at ease that it's really the same thing for less money with less inputs. If you're doing a podcast with 2 people, the XS is probably good for you. If you have less desk space, the XS is probably good for you. If you don't need faders, the XS is probably good for you. I do like the faders. They're not flying faders, by the way. I have notes, and we're going to look at the notes. I read the manual for quite a while. I've worked with it, and we're going to go to the top-down camera. I'm going to show you my notes. First of all, it says Jackie DLZ, not Mackie. And there's 2 notes. I'm thinking we would have needed more. It says different modes and NDI. So, that's not gonna help me. Let's start with the back of this. How about that? We have a back camera. You got 4 inputs, 4 microphones. You have a stereo input 1/4 inch for something else. This is stereo output, also 1/4 inch going to speakers. In this case, it's going to our recording system, so everything I'm doing you can actually hear. We got 4 headphone outputs because usually on podcasts people wear headphones. I don't like to do that because it looks weird, but that's usually what happens. Then we have input 7.8, which is a small plug, 3 point something to go from your phone or whatever, but you can also Bluetooth. Then there's a computer USB-C So you can actually use this as an audio interface and stream from the computer at the same time as you're inputting something else. The really cool thing is NDI, which I don't think anyone else has that. That's an Ethernet network protocol, and you can send signals to another DLZ or to another NDI destination, like OBS or something. It accepts a USB-A stick. That's a very tiny one right here, she said. And that is, it has some music on it, which I can trigger. And right here, you can see that is the SD card slot. And I have a micro SD card here. It is micro. I mean, what I'm saying is the slot is micro. Obviously, this is micro. I'm not a dumbass. So we're going to plug this in. And this actually screws in for safety. That's it. So now the SD card's in, and I could start recording by hitting the big record button, which brings up this whole record thing up here. And all I gotta do is hit record, and then whatever I'm inputting is being recorded. You can also pause it and then resume the recording. It's telling me there's 1 day and 15 minutes on the card, apparently. Well, it's quite a bit. You can record stereo, which is what I usually do with this, or also multiple channels, all the inputs separately. And you're doing this right here under recording and routing. You can see we're recording stereo. We could also record all the individual tracks and stereo, and it's either going onto the micro SD card or the USB drive. So in the same way, you can determine what goes to the computer, stereo, or multi-track. And on NDI, you can determine whether it's off, mono, or stereo, and it's sending the master. But we have an extra NDI section where we show you how that works. And there's a couple of other things. We'll get into this. Now, NDI is really interesting because you can connect DLZs, you can connect other NDI destinations and sources and feed them into this. So within your, let's say, radio station house, you have different studios in different rooms, and you can actually go from one studio to the other and feed audio into these, which is very convenient. Now, I have to be honest, I have not used 95% of what this thing can do. And that is why it's great. It can do so much, but you don't have to. The way I used it for a podcast is put it on the table, give it power, plug in 4 mics, do auto level on all 4 inputs, and hit record. Done. That's all I did. The inputs have presets, and the presets will automatically set up the gating, the EQing and all that stuff. So we're going to start with the most simple thing, because you're going to think that after everything I'm showing you, oh, this is really complicated and I have to really work for quite a while to start working with this. No, you don't. Put it on the table, plug in mics, put in an SD card, hit record, and you're done. So I'm going to show you the most simple operation. I'm going to take this very inexpensive Fluid LCT240, which is a condenser mic, so it needs phantom power. But you don't need to know that, technically. You just need to know that it's a condenser mic. We're plugging into input 1. And now, all I do is select channel 1, go to channel, and now I go to preset. And there's a whole list. And I'm picking condenser, right? You can also pick call in, and then it's going to, put a preset on it for the Bluetooth. We're going to check that out as well. So load, technically, it's on condenser. It's got all that stuff already set up, and you can see set gain automatically. So now I'm going to talk into the mic. I'm going to talk into the mic. It is listening, and it is hopefully setting up the level the way that, and it says level set. There we go. That's all that's happening. If I now go to advanced controls, someone said it. Someone changed things. Wait. We want the pro mode. So let's get into this. I think Leslie was cleaning it and she changed it to enhanced. So on easy mode, let's start there, since we're here. There's also, by the way, a setup assistant, which will guide you through everything, if you really know nothing. So on easy mode, you can see that really you can't do anything. There's a preset, Let's do microphone setup. Okay, we have a condenser mic. Next. Listen and set for me. Now I'm talking just like I did before. It does everything. It already has the 48 volt, blah, 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 and we're good. And next. And that's all you do. Everything else is automatic with gating and all that stuff. You don't have EQ options. See? You just have a very, very simple interface. If I go to enhanced mode, there's a bit more. There's my input level again. There's a high pass filter. There's a 3-band EQ. I can say whether the noise gate is on or off, whether compression is on or off, how much compression, and if I want de-essing on or off. Technically, for 95% of people, that is absolutely fine. You also have these quick controls on the side here for many things, which I always kind of forget that they're there. And you can see I can change things right around there. But you can also, of course, do this with your finger on the screen for a lot of stuff. But I want more control. This is totally fine. If you don't know what you're doing, then use that. If you do know what you're doing, I'm going to blow your mind now. Because this thing has full-on panning, reverb send, and delay send. Yes, it has reverb and delay, if you want that. But look at the EQ. It set that up for me, by the way, based on the presets. There are different presets right there, but it kind of looks like that's what I would want. But, I mean, I can completely EQ the living crap out of that with a nice visual representation of the EQ the way that we love it. High pass filters right there. Gate. I mean, this is a fully featured noise gate. You can see right there how it's gating and how much. It's not fully gating, but I could again gate the crap out of it. You can set all of this up. Very fully featured gate if you need the exact settings that you need for your session. For each channel, of course. The same with the compressor, hard knee, soft knee, all these things that, you know, you don't necessarily want to know about. Hello, hello, hello. Now you can see how much it's compressing right there, the orange. Hello, hello, hello. That's makeup gain. We want a lower threshold. We want it to compress harder, harder, more ratio. There you go. So really heavy compression, killer. And the same thing for the de-essay. You can actually say exactly what the sidechain frequency is. If you don't know what a sidechain frequency is, don't mess with it. So that's how you set that up. But I never set up any of the EQ gate and compressor stuff because I let the thing do it based on the preset. Super simple. Now, what if you don't have a condenser mic? What if you have a dynamic mic? Well, go to dynamic setting. What if you have one of those big ass SM7Bs? Well, I'll show you. Big ass SM7B. So you go to preset, SM7B, load, set gain. Hello, I'm talking into this thing and it's listening to me. And now we should have the gain set automatically. And let's look at the EQ. Yep, it did set that all up. That is pretty impressive. So I don't have to do anything. You could actually never hear any of that stuff because this fader wasn't up. Good. That's why you heard the shotgun mic the whole time, but that is fine. So with this fader up, you can actually now hear what this mic is doing. Yeah, I'm an idiot, but that's fine. So here is the SM7B. Get your fader up and you're good. That's how simple it is. 4 mics, done. You want to probably monitor with headphones. And if you insist on it, which makes sense for a podcast, everyone's got headphones. That's why it's got 4 outs. The XS has 2. And on the main overview page, you've got the 4 levels right there. And I should be able to hear myself. That is perfect. Absolutely nice. Pretty damn simple. Where do you set up effects? You go to... the effects page. Very simple. Reverb, delay. I don't know why you would want that. Medium room, load, overview, go to channel 1, channel, reverb send. Hello, hello, hello. There's a room. I don't know why you would want that for a podcast. I have no idea. But you could. You could also trigger that momentarily, which is great. And I'm going to show you how to do that. You can use all these things as really cool effects. Same for the delay. Gonna set that up. Let's go to a preset. Space. Or as they say in the South, spice. Channel, delay send. Here is... I don't see the use for a podcast. Okay. Let's get this down. Now, in terms of overview for now, before we go to other things, on this 4 channels, this one I gave a musical note. That would be this, 5/6. It is stereo. So let's go to channel and see what that is. It would either be line in the back, or USB coming from the computer, and you select what you want. Now, if there's something coming in that is being monitored, let's say in the computer, and it's coming in here, it's going out of stereo back to the computer, and they want to monitor it, well, then they will hear their source twice. So they will hear a delay. They will hear themselves. It's like one of those phone calls where you hear yourself echoing. Very easily, what you do is you hit mix minus, and that is fixed. You can also change the icon. So let's say there's I don't know, we want this little guy because it's a little guy talking to you, and we want this in green. Then that's what we have there now. Everything is green. And the same way for that stereo input, you can do all these nifty things. On 7.8, what is that icon? Of course, you can change that. Again, that is input 7.8, which is the tiny plug, or input from the computer, and you can do all that other stuff. 9.10, we have Bluetooth, the disk, so it can come from the SD card, or NDI. Okay, NDI we will show you later. Right now it is on network, but Bluetooth, I could easily enable it. We're paired. Better than appled. I mean, an apple is paired, but I mean, you know what I mean. So we'll just go to my channel. That way we don't have copyright strikes. There's a video that technically should show up. 9.10. Depth and all that stuff, but why not check it out? Because I've been curious about these amps since they came out, and you've been curious, so why not cover it? And of course, we have mute and solo for each channel. Right there. And you can actually see what's happening to the channels right there as well. That is how you do that. Why would you want that? Well, you can of course play audio from the phone, but the coolest thing is you can take call-ins, and there's a preset for that as well. You can actually take a call-in to this thing. I mean, should we try? So Leslie should be able to hear me on her call through this microphone, and we should hear her now that it's unmuted.
Why are you calling me?
Keep talking a little bit, please, because I think we got a gate on here. Why is it so quiet? Wait, I gotta crank this up. Oh, here, do it again.
And now, am I louder?
Yep.
Hello, hello?
But you can hear an echo, right?
No, I don't. I can hear myself in the next room, but I don't hear an echo on the phone.
Because mix minus is already on. If we turn that on, now you can hear yourself echoing.
Now I can hear myself.
Okay. And that is how easily you put in a call from someone and include them into the whole podcast, and they can actually hear everything you're doing. So if you're playing sounds or whatever is on this mixer, they will get it into their feed wherever they are in Timbuktu or, in the Alps. That is so easy and so cool. Thank you, Leslie. I'm going to hang up now. How cool is that? So you can do Bluetooth, disk, or NDI. And on 1112, that is this big-ass fader over here, which on the XS, I'm going to show you, there isn't a fader for that. You have the pads. And if you're doing a radio show type thing, you will want some sound effects like, that. So those come preloaded. You can put a lot more on there. Either you use these directional buttons or you click on the actual letter, and then there are 8 banks. So on bank 2, I loaded 1 already. You can see that it's illuminated, which is a full song from a band. Now, I had it programmed to start and stop. You can program it to start and pause. You can loop it. Want to see how that's done? By the way, on the interface, I didn't know any of this because you don't have to. You just use it very, very simply. Mic on, done. But on the interface, what you can do is drag, click, and very important, double click. There are certain things that are double clickable, and that is really cool. For example, there are empty pads right here, right? So you double click, it brings you right to that pad's edit mode. Otherwise, you would have to go to pads, B2, and then you're there. So double clicking that empty spot gets you there as well. Playing a sample makes sense. You can change the pad color here. We're going to make that green. That's the name. We don't need the name because I can say load sample from disk. And we're just going to start. This is from the USB stick. There's some files on there. And right now it's just going to play that sample. Oh, I didn't see that. I can edit the sample. Look at that. I can say it's starting anywhere into its course. That is cool. Well, I want to start it right here. But we're going to fade it in a little bit, which is nice. That is so cool. So you can say whether it plays and stops, plays and pauses, holds, and you can re-trigger it. Or if it's a short sample, just make it loop if it's a loop. So that means if I'm hitting this, it's playing that file. And it could be a fart, it could be a laugh, it could be anything you feed it, of course. But the really, really cool stuff is control. Now let's get into this for a second. You want to censor someone? Right there. Now it's toggling. You can also hold it. Mute group. That can be very cool if there are just 2 people that you know they're going to fight every single time. And we're going to mute 2 and 4. And so right now, we're holding that these are muted. So you know these 2 guys will continuously fight or whatever. You can mute them. We can also make it locals only, so that only the people in the room talk and the other people will not be involved in the recording or be able to hear you. Intercom will connect 2 people or more people by hitting it. So let's say people are talking in the podcast and then you have to discuss with someone else and you know that you might want to discuss the next program point without it being recorded. You can hit it and then it'll be an intercom between those 2 with their headphones and mics. Same thing, you can also include people on Bluetooth or NDI or the computer people. Very, very, very cool function to not interrupt the podcast and keep going. There's fades. I don't know why you would need that, but okay, you can fade it. And there's ducking, where only the first channel will have its actual volume and the other channels will be reduced in volume. So you can, if the host should always be on 1, and then you can use the ducking. So those are very, very cool live functions for a live stream, to be able to continue the live stream, but mute certain people or have discussions with people without it being recorded if you know how you're handling the stream. Now, effects can be assigned to channel 1, channel 2, channel 3, channel 4. You can see where that is. And I'm going to show you those effects really quickly. It's toy stuff, but it could be fun if you want to be silly or if you want to extort people for money. Because, you know, voice effects. I'll show you. Gonna have that one up. And we could say the reverb is on. By the way, these can all be combined. And right now, so it's off. Oh, we're gonna hold here. and now the reverb's on, and now the reverb's off. So you can hold that and just have reverb if you wanted that. I don't know why. Same with delay, of course. Turn it on. Hello, hello, hello. Hello. And it's only there while you're holding the button. That is not so useful. However, the telephone effect, that's kind of a cool thing. For me personally, I don't really hear it because I hear myself in my head. But for you guys, that should sound like a telephone now. Now, even crazier, again, you can combine these. You can do telephone with delay and whatever. But voice effects, of course, are fun. Because if I put the pitch up, I'm going to hold this, I'm going to sound so sexy.
I'm going to sound so sexy. It's like, hello, baby. How you doing? You see? You see? If you're into chipmunks, you could totally, yeah. Or Olga's, let's see, Olga.
We're gonna do that. Hey, yo, baby. Yo, mama, how you doing? Not sexy? Probably not. I don't do sexy. I don't know. So, that's kind of cool.
But you could also do the disguise, and that's kind of really, that's more like from the Saw movies, if you wanted that. And the robot comes in medium, it comes in
Small. And the robot
Also comes in large. Large. Okay, I'm having fun with that. And you can, of course, delay that as well. And now we have a space robot. Of course, a
small space robot.
if you want to play around with that stuff. So you can do that on a pad over here. And you can see you can be very creative with the pads, either with assigning effects. So one could be a certain effect, up or down. The other one can control certain intercom functions, and others trigger samples. Very, very cool functionality. Snapshots? Honestly, I have no idea. Didn't see that on the XS. Maybe it's there. And didn't read about that in the manual. I'm uninformed. I'm not gonna talk about it. Media obviously gets you access to the USB drive or the SD drive. And I think the SD drive is empty. Yes, it is. We covered the effects. We covered the channel. Left, right. I mean, this is so fully featured. It's a bit overwhelming to see all the stuff you can do with computer input, with Bluetooth input, with NDI input, with the little plug and the stereo plug and the 4 mics. None of that has to scare you, because all you gotta do is put on the table, give it power, plug in mics, level them in automatically based on presets, and record your podcast. That's how we've been doing our podcast. I knew nothing about all of this stuff before I started making this video. I just used it as much as I wanted to. You want to get in really deep and use the pads to play sounds and make funny things and, mute people. You can. If you want to bring in someone with a phone, I'm going to absolutely use that for interviews because the quality is great. Yes, but you don't have to. Now, the last thing I want to show you is auto mix. So when you're hitting that, you can actually assign priorities to different people. And that will simply prioritize who it's pushing up in the mix and who will duck each other. So when I'm speaking, it makes sure that my voice comes through clearly rather than the others. I should do that for a podcast because we always talk on top of each other. But because of that, that's a great idea. And when we look at the small one, it's all there. It's just a tiny bit less of it. So let's do that right now.
understand. A teary cheek, a smile you fake, but nothing's changing.
So here we got the DLZ XS. It is about, I think, $170 cheaper. It has a smaller screen, higher resolution, I think. No, actually, you're seeing less channels. It shows all the same stuff. We have 2 mic inputs in the back. Still the same 1/4 inch. But the 1/4 inch is 3 and 4 now. 5 and 6 is the tiny thing. Then we got computer, NDI, USB-A, and card. So it's all there. We have 6 pads. They're just smaller. They're right here. Then the levels, if you go to overview, 1 and 2 is mic. So it's these 2. Then we'll call it music, which is 3. 5 and 6 would be our Bluetooth or line in through 5 and 6. So that's different than the other one. 7 are our pads. So the pads are here. Then NDI is 9, 10. Well, it's not necessarily NDI. It can also be USB, but we switched it to NDI. And then 11, 12 would be USB or NDI. So you can determine what that is. These don't have faders on them. So for those are the faders. So we're repurposing the 4 direct controls. We only have 4 instead of 5. Okay, no biggie. Everything else is pretty much the same. So if I go to channel 1, we want to learn the mic. We do the same thing. Preset, SM7B. Everything is just a tiny bit smaller. Set level automatically. I'm going to talk into this and the level should be set at some point. And there's our level. Let's make sure we actually have a level here so you guys can hear me. And then we got the main out. I don't have a fader for that. Nope. Also muted? No, now it's muted. Okay. Main out. That should be fine. So I did not plug in my headphones, so let's maybe do that. And because it is made for 2, it only has 2 headphone outs, of course. And I can hear myself beautifully. So just the same way, let's go to bank B. Did we set up some sounds? Yeah, we did. Look at that. Yeah, we did. And what is that? Hello? I don't remember what we did there. So you can set up your pads in the same way, just like you do on the big one. Cancel that. Go to bank A. We got the same. That makes me laugh. Okay, it's all the same. You can have the call-ins, all the same stuff. The effects are the same. If I go to the channel, there's an EQ, there's a gate. No, there's not. Oh, I have to be on here. I was on the main one. So here we got the channel, we got the gate. It's all the same, except some menu items appear to be in different spots. Are they actually? No, now we updated it. No, it's all the same. Here you got the NDI. It looks pretty much exactly like the big one also. No time that we have to lose on this. Big difference is faders, only 2 mics, and the overall size. If you want to have this on your desk for good, and not set it up every single time, maybe desk space is an issue. However, if you're using it as your main interface, like we're using it in the editing suite here in Studio C, then the big DLZ Creator fits on the table and it's beautiful. I think it is a desk space thing rather than a feature thing, unless, of course, you're doing podcasts with more than 2 people. If 2 people is what you do, that's it. If 2 people and a guest by call-in is what you do, the small one will absolutely suffice. Financially speaking, 170 in between them probably isn't going to weigh you in one direction or the other. If you have the need for more mic inputs or more inputs in general and you like the faders and the bigger screen, you're going to go for the big one. If you have no space on your desk, but you want to have something cool for podcasts, or you have a secondary studio where you want to pump in the audio from the first studio where you have a big DLZ Creator and you connect them with NDI in your home network, that is a killer functionality, which we haven't even shown you. That's what that actually looks like. Let's talk about NDI integration, which is really, really cool. Now, NDI means you're sending audio signals through an Ethernet cable into your network. And that means you could grab it from the network with any network attached computer and also pump it into OBS or your DAW. You will need an NDI plugin to do that, but then you can grab the stereo feed from the Mackie DLZ Creator Series or the XS. Now we've plugged in the XS in the studio here into the network, and that is connected with the network in the adjacent house where Valeria sits on the big creator. And we got it working once we figured out, what things to plug in on my walls rather easily. So let me show you. I have a mic connected. I'm connected to the speakers right now. On channel 910, I can pick on the small one between USB, so from a computer, or NDI. Okay. On 5.6, I still have Bluetooth. On the bigger one, it seems that it's either Bluetooth or NDI. We have mix minus on, because otherwise I would hear a delay from Valeria because it's going to her and then going back in and then going out again and so on. So we created a loop. Mix minus fixes that. Going back to overview. And I can actually see what she pushed. She's on solo and she muted herself. Can you unmute yourself?
I did unmute myself.
Oh, so that means I can...
Maybe you can mute me.
I can mute you because on the small one, I don't have a fader for you. So I'm looking at my faders, and for 910, I have a volume on the right side, right there. And I have, because that's an active channel now, a solo and a mute. But we can see when she's talking.
Talkie. I keep talkie.
That she's coming in right there. And everything she's doing on her creator, all the pads and everything, will actually come in here on a stereo track. So she could run her own show over there. And then I can link her into my show, a live stream or whatever I want to do right here. So let's see if she can hear my sounds.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, well, she can hear that. Let's see where she is. We're going to go and track her down.
Oh, hi.
Oh, hi.
Hello there.
So you're doing your own show here without me,
Yeah,
but I could get you into my show.
really. That's interesting.
So, same thing here. She switched this to NDI, that way she can hear me on 910. And that's where I come in. But you don't have the mix minus. Oh, up there.
Yeah.
It is a little bit different interface-wise.
Mm-hmm.
Tiny bit different. Okay. And then on the main recording routing page in settings, you just pick the name for your thing. You say whether you want it mono or stereo. Of course we want stereo. Why wouldn't we want that? And then right here is the connection page with IP bullshit, but it actually just shows up right there. You select it and you're done. And once you actually have it in the right plugs in the walls, this is fairly easy in a local network. So if you're running several studios in one building, just to be able to move audio from one to the other with NDI, if you're doing the podcast thing or live streaming anyway, this might be a really, really cool solution for radio stations with several studios. Actually, just for studios to interact with each other. Pretty cool, nifty stuff. Back to me. I'm massively impressed with the NDI, and I think it's the only podcast studio in an affordable range that does that. Or I might be wrong. Look it up. My only gripe, really, is Mackie's website and the update procedure, because we needed to get that big boy up to use to be able to use NDI, which the small one already could. And we needed to update the firmware, and that needs to be done. Even though you have it hooked up with USB to your computer, you can't just do that with USB. You have to put it on a card or on one of the sticks, and then load it up with that firmware and stuff like this. It's a little bit cumbersome for nowadays, let's put it that way. And actually finding it was rather difficult. We installed firmware, and it was always the old one. So finding the newest firmware was not easy. And we kind of usually know what we're doing. So just to let you know, it is to be found somewhere, but you might have to dig deeper. You're going to do that once a year, so I don't think that's a super big criticism. Other than that, I can record here. I have a PreSonus big-ass digital mixer with built-in recording. I have Cubase. I have UA interfaces. I've got all these things. When I'm recording a podcast, I'm using the Mackie DLZ Creator. No shit. Why? Power, bam, table, mic, done. Because it's simple. It gets the job done really quickly. And I now know if I wanted to call in, I can't do that with any other equipment I have. Not that easily. If I wanted to add some music and talk about stuff, not that easily. This is a great tool. And the small one is it's a slightly more affordable, but definitely more space-saving tool. I think I covered everything that I had on my list. Let me quickly check. Pro, Semi, and Easy, and NDI. Yep. I covered the Jackie DLZ list. That's it from here. Buy them, don't buy them, whatever. If you have the info that you needed, and you now know whether it's for you or whether it's not for you, whether it has the functionality that you were looking for or it doesn't, it's all up to you. I'm not forcing you, but if you do buy, then please support the people that support me. Sweetwater and other shops, links below. Thank you, Sweetwater, for commissioning this video. You guys are amazing. I love you, and you know that. And not just because you sent me things and you pay for videos. You are truly amazing people. Much love to Ford somewhere nowhere. You know where you are. User links, thank you, and animals at the end.